Hello all you miniatures enthusiasts on the interwebs, I'm Ducky and welcoming you to a midweek ramble for Thursday the 22nd of July 2021. And I'm showing off a big model here at first. See, this is the avatar of Sonia from Malifaux, first edition. And it's a big mess of metal. The idea that she's creating it, just breathing fire out of her mouth, and it's creating this whole big snake. Now, there were no obvious connection points. And looking at illustrations, she's often positioned where like she has her back to this part of the snake. See, she's pointing more this way with her head instead of this way. And I thought of it, I could have positioned her a little bit more to this side so she was more straight on towards the fire, but what I was trying to do was place her more sort of in the middle of the model, so she's centered. I always tend to go for that. It's a sort of pet peeve of mine. I don't like things being off-center or off-kilter. And I just sort of dabbed some super glue on like her mouth, her foot, her wrist, where they connect. And I'm just sort of hoping it holds, because whenever you pick this up, you're not holding her, you're not holding Sonia, you're holding the big part of the model, and probably the base. So she's probably not going to be affected by that. And the fire was a lot of work. I try to go more subtle. I've sort of trying to learn to be more realistic. I've painted more cartoony fire before, where I've gone from yellow all the way up to red. But this time the top color is not pure red, it's a red brown. It's actually cavalry brown by Vallejo. So which I think brings across the feel of real fire more. So it's yellow, orange, and cavalry brown, and some white for the deepest glowing recesses. It's not, there's no pure white here. It's like yellow mixed with white, or white with a yellow-orange glaze over it, at most. But I'm pretty pleased with how she turned out. It's not all I've done in this half week. I've churned out some other models, so let's have a look at them. Yeah, the frog folk also are finished. The rest of that latest Midlam Miniatures Kickstarter. Mostly warriors, a couple of guys in seaweed cloaks, one with a big mace and one with some sort of weird staff, and also a Shoggoth-like thingy. Yeah. Very roughly speed painted. I think that's appropriate for Midlam Miniatures. That's the way their sculpts are, rough and ready. And yeah, so these are 9 more. That's a total of 10 minis in the middle of the week. Good progress, good progress. Let's move on to the work table. So these are the remains of the day, or rather the remains of the previously started stuff. We have the Avatar of Justice. Not much more work been done here. And these red box minis have been had some primer and some undercoats on them. I rethought what I think this lady is holding. I thought she was holding a long stemmed flower. I actually think she's holding some sort of stick or rod with feathers tied onto it at one end. It's very confusing, but I'll put some paint on it and we'll see what it turns out. Yeah, not much else to say about these. They are simply progressing. slowly but surely.
So say hello to these not at all Star Wars miniatures from Westphalia. We have the Dark Knight, who I placed on, or Death Knight, who I placed on a graveyard base. We have the Stormtroopers, who are on desert bases, because, you know, Star Wars likes its desert planets. And then we have the crew from The Mandalorian, who are on various rocky bases, because in that show, they're always on rocky planets for some reason. Now, there were some variations here. This model came with a lot of options. Mostly, there were two different helmets. I went with one that looked the most like the Mandalorian. And the left arm and hand had three variants. There were two different versions of a child, and there was the option of him just holding a sword. Now, I was never going to go with the sword, luckily, because it was flimsy resin and it broke during prep. I couldn't fix it, but I was going to go with one of the children anyway. This model also came with a separate sword and a scabbard, but I could not find any place to put it. I mean, the only place there's open space is like on his back, but that would have looked really, really awkward. Also, back scabbards were never a thing. Stop using them, Hollywood. And yeah, it would have made the model look way too busy. He has his crossbow and he's got a lot of knives. That's enough weaponry. Then we have the other three, and you might say that I messed up with them, or you can just say I went my own way, because I didn't look at the pictures on their website before assembling them. So I discovered that this guy, in their version, he's actually holding the bow more or less straight down in a relaxed position, like he's like the prepared position when he's waiting. I put the arm slightly higher, like he's lifting it up to take a shot, because I thought that looked more dynamic. It's more three-dimensional. So I'm not sad that I did this, because I think that's actually better. Now, with the Cara Dune XP, on their site, she actually has the sword angled horizontally, so the blade is resting in this left hand. She's like holding up the sword with both hands. I'm not sure that would work, angling the arm like that. It's too late now anyway, because I would have to like cut it open and off and replace it. But I think this way works fine as well. I mean, the hand is like a gestures, is like shrugging or something, or gesturing with it while she's talking and threatening someone with the sword at the same time. That's okay. Again, I think that's more dynamic. Finally, the robot, I had to do a lot of pinning to get the arms in there, and then I discovered that no, you're supposed to put them in these holes on the underside. The arms are not supposed to stick out that way. They're supposed to be a joint down and then out, and same thing there. It's not supposed to be out in an angle. It's supposed to be down and then up. I mean, that conceivably I could fix that, because clipping these off is easier than clipping an arm off. But honestly, I don't know why I should bother, because I think this way looks okay too. It looks fine, I think. And again, more dimensionality, because doing it their way, the model becomes more compact, more flat, and I generally shy away from that. I want it to take up space, and this one is. I think this looks more threatening. if a tall, thin robot like this can look threatening. Yeah. Anyway, they're ready for priming, and then continuing on from there.
So for starting up new projects in the middle of the week like this, I thought I'd do something small. And you might wonder, small? This is a whole box. This is a whole crew box for Malifaux, the Claw and Fang, which is the Marcus crew. But the thing is, I've already painted half of these. You see, back a few years ago when I used to play Malifaux, I played under 2nd edition rules. They're up to 3rd edition now. I don't know what the changes are exactly. But I liked mostly the 1st edition models and mostly painted those and played with those, and that was no issue. The difference being the 1st edition used metal models, and then for 2nd edition they transferred into doing plastic models on sprues like these. Kind of more like... These are essentially the same kind of plastic that Games Workshop uses. And it's the same deal where you have lots of tiny pieces that you have to fit together somehow. But I needed extras of some models, and specifically the Rattler and the Cerberus. I painted up the Sabertooth Cerberus so that I could have 2 of each, possibly play. And Kojo I painted up because Kojo did not exist in 1st edition, so I had to paint the 2nd edition model if I wanted to use him. But Marcus himself, his henchman Miranda, and the Jackalope, they're all what were called unique creatures, meaning you couldn't have more than one of them on the board at the same time. So there was no practical point in painting them up, in painting up more than 2 copies. So I didn't. But now that I'm painting for fun instead of for play, let's go back and finish those up. So there are 3 models here. This bit here is Marcus, this here is Miranda, and these little things are the Jackalope. So let's prep these for painting. And I can do a different paint scheme. For example, the paint scheme here on this box, basically in pale blues and grays. Haven't done that before. In the 1st edition Marcus I painted in leathers because that's in browns mostly, because that's how he was portrayed then, and Miranda mostly in brighter blues, kind of like almost denim-like. But okay, so this is gray leather. Let's see if I can go for that sort of effect. Don't know what to do with the Jackalope because the Jackalope isn't pictured here. But we'll see. We'll figure something out. And there's some bases here. No matter. And by the way, much of 3rd edition, I've looked at their production. A lot of 3rd edition is reissued 2nd edition kits, just changing the logos and some of the artwork. But it seems the models are largely the same. But I'm not an expert, so I might have gotten that wrong. But I've seen some kits that are exactly the same. That doesn't mean all of them are. Anyway, hopefully I've got these glued together. I haven't glued plastic kits together in a long time. Let's see how that works out. It should be easier than super glue, because plastic cement at least doesn't glue my fingers together. Anyway, enough rambling. That was this week's episode. We are finished. So give me a thumbs up. Give me a subscribe if you haven't done so before. Give me a comment for the algorithm. And join me again on Monday for the regularly scheduled ramble. Same channel, same Dakian. But for now, I'm signing off.